Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new edition of GameTales, the show where we talk about several things over the course of an hour or so, and today's thing is very thingy indeed. Welcome Stefan from the channel Stephen Nonsense. How are you today?
Hello Unicom, I'm doing fairly fine. Well, today's gonna be this episode's gonna be about several thingies. I think that's a good one, but it's gonna be one of those newsy one episodes again. So if you're not
you could
in
say
it for,
that up until now we've been hardly newsing, but we're getting to it.
we're getting to it. Yeah. But so as this isn't gonna be our normal. Well, not our normal, like the format that we started with. We're just gonna discuss very recent gaming industry news and announcements, because well, you got the time, and there's been a bunch of them, and it'll be cool to have a bit of a talky chatty part.
Oh, and some of the things we're going to talk about, they are very, very juicy indeed. You can just sink your teeth into them and just tear them up. Especially the ones near the end.
Yes, we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff in the gaming industry and related stuff near and dear to our YouTube channels.
So shall we take them in the order that you have written them?
Yeah, I think so. They seem, as far as I'm concerned, they're like in the order of importance to me, let's say, sort of, or just in general relevance to I think to a lot of our demographic.
I know the first one was very important to a lot of people because it affected them quite heavily in the day that a certain game was released. So, have you played up until now any sort of Red Dead Redemption game?
No, or aren't they console exclusives?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. So no.
The first one was a sort of crazy, kooky, bizarre creation by a studio formerly collaborating with Capcom. So it's
the studio formerly known as Prince.
Yeah, sort of something like that. It started out as a sort of Japanese-influenced Western, meaning every character is an insane caricature, and all the gameplay is
like the spaghetti westerns. You mean?
Yeah, a spaghetti Western if it was made in Japan. So imagine.
Well, a lot of westerns are actually remade and Americanized Japanese movies. So
yeah, but have you played any really weird Japanese games with really weird characters?
No, I can't really say I have.
Well, the first Red Dead was kind of a goofy, strange thing, and then it turned something more serious. It turned into an actual Western. And then the second one came along, and on the PC it was released a couple of weeks ago, and it didn't work.
Yes, I did read quite a bit. The Red Dead Redemption 2 on the PC needs some redemption itself.
Yeah, it was very, very annoying because I have some friends that also do live streams. They work for a local retailer, and they have a YouTube channel for that retailer that sells computer parts and games and stuff, and every week they make videos, like live streams, and usually when there's a big release, they make a live stream of that game. And they spent over 2 hours trying to make it work. Doing nothing else, just trying to make it. They downloaded and installed it twice, and that's 300 gigs right there. That's something to tell you about Romania's internet. In 2 hours, they downloaded 300 gigs.
Twice.
No, actually, no. In total.
It's 150. Total. Okay. I don't know. Yes.
Could not get it to work.
Yeah, I read it was all freezy and buggy and whatnot, but I guess they squashed most of the bugs by now.
Yeah, a bunch of the game-breaking bugs. The fact that it doesn't start, they fixed that thankfully with time. And the thing is, it seemed to affect mostly people that bought it on the Rockstar launcher.
Oh, isn't that
their own launcher? Not the Epic Game Store one. That one seemed to work for some reason. The Rockstar one didn't. So it was kind of a really bad way to get people to use the Rockstar game. Not that they have a choice. You don't have a choice when using the Rockstar game launcher, but it's not a way to endear people to use it.
All of these all of these companies making their own launchers. I think I've made this comparison before. It's like all of the studios making their own streaming service.
Oh God, yeah, that's
it's fragmenting the market, and it's like, so it's, yeah. Anyway,
something I'd like to see is them is for that evil association, the ESA, to actually make its own launcher, like for a standard launcher, an open source launcher for the entire gaming industry. Have one launcher, one big massive store that is owned by no single entity. And that's how you make we have an expression in Romania. That's how you appease the goat and the cabbage.
Yes, because that makes the most sense. That makes no sense in Romanian either. Makes even less sense in other languages.
Yeah, because otherwise you're always going to end up with one company dominating and somebody else trying to undominate them, and then that company eventually may be dominating as well, which sort of doesn't really work. Like you need to sort of balance things out, and
you can't really replace one monopoly with a different type of monopoly. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. On the other hand, we're gonna talk about that once we get to YouTube, because unfortunately, no one's trying, and no one has the capabilities of over monopolying YouTube. But
people have tried, but they were sort of bought out and then shut down by companies that also own YouTube networks for some reason. Exactly. I wonder if anybody investigated it in like the FTC or the FCC or whatever the American associations are called. Probably not. They don't care.
Most likely not. So that was Red Dead Redemption 2.
Currently, it's playable right now. It only has issues with NVIDIA drivers until they get an update, because it has some issues with the load balancing on the CPU. But you can add a command line, like in the shortcut of the game, you can add a command for the command line, and it can solve things.
Okay, talking about things getting bought and shut down from under someone else, well, not necessarily from under someone else's noses, because that wasn't what we were talking about, but in this case, Human Head.
Or we should call it now Severed Head.
I guess so. Dead Head. Which was working on Rune 2, I believe.
Yes, and here's the thing that really sort of shocked me. I thought myself, oh my God, does this mean Rune 2 is cancelled? Does this mean it's not coming out? It came out the little day when the studio shut down.
Oh, okay.
It just, nobody knows that it was released, because they didn't really seem to care all that much about propagating the news of the game's release or doing much marketing. Probably because they were planning on bailing out like a month ago. They've been in talks with Bethesda for a while to reconsolidate under Bethesda as a new studio, Roundhouse Games or Roundhouse Studios, and they just abandoned Rune. Well, not super abandoned. They have said, like somebody has said, it's either the publisher or the studio, that they will not abandon the game, that there will still be updates for it. And I've seen that there have been some patches for it. But the publisher itself, Ragnarok LLC, or I think that's how it's called, found out that Human Head was jumping ship that they announced it. So it's probably not going to be smooth sailing for Rune 2, which
definitely not.
From what I've seen, has it sort of started out as a promise of being, a sequel to Rune, and then it became one of those survival open world crafty games.
We're going to talk about those as well, of course. Of course, it has to be a survival open world game nowadays. It's either that or Fortnite or some shit like that. It has to be. What do you know about... Now, I like Star Wars. I'm a fan of Star Wars, the main movies. I've never really gotten to any of the shows. I've never really played any of the fucking games either. So yes, you can kotor me all you want. I don't give a fuck.
I'm gonna ask you one question. Have you seen The Mandalorian?
No, but I have heard about the twist at the end of episode 1.
I'm gonna tell you something about it. It is probably the best fan-made Boba Fett movie ever made.
I honestly think whether you're sarcastic or I honestly think that's what people wanna see because Boba Fett has only been a thing because fans like the armor.
Yeah,
Because the dude has like literally two lines in the
yeah,
like two scenes in the. I never understood the Boba Fett fetish.
a Boba Fetish, if you will.
So no, what I'm just putting in that caveat. I'm a big fan of the movies, including the last ones. I really love the last ones actually, but I never played any of the games. I literally had no interest in playing any of the games. So, but I've heard that this Fallen Order thing was released. What was the dealio with that?
Well, I asked some people that have played it, one of them being a friend of mine from that retailer I told you earlier about. He has done like several live streams with it, and I asked him, how does it compare with The Force Unleashed and Jedi Knight? And he said, let's not compare it to those because it's not really a worthy comparison since those are classics and this isn't.
No,
That's kind of what he said. It's Star Wars is seen through the lens of Tomb Raider and Uncharted, and with a bit of Dark Souls in the combat.
okay. I guess it sounds like it should work, but
It sort of, how should I put this? Imagine the base level of your expectations. Now zoom in on them like with a microscope and see that there's like a couple of microns under it. That's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's like just a hair beneath what could have been probably a good, memorable Star Wars game.
Okay. Also, similarly, I understand some Pokemon shit was released as well,
Yeah, I don't care.
but I'm way too we're way too old for that shit. We just never played. By the time Pokemon came to Romania, we were well into high school and whatnot. So
Yeah. The cartoon was nice. I mean, I was kind of shocked to know that it didn't stop. Like on Pro TV, this year on Pro TV, like we had like the first season of Pokemon on Pro TV for like 3 or 4 times. I've probably seen the first episode like 3 or 4 times. I had no clue it never stopped. It just keeps going. They've made this. It's so long running. You die trying to watch every episode probably right now.
I still don't think it's all longer than The Simpsons, though. I think they have the.
Yeah, they have the advantage, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Okay, so you mentioned something about Unreal and some interesting piece of technology.
Yeah, you know how some of the best looking games currently use scans from the real world, like The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. They took a bunch of cameras into the wilderness of Norway or something like that and just scanned everything, rocks, trees, a church, and they plastered those textures, those beautiful high-res, infinitely detailed textures onto pretty accurate models, and then added some magic there with parallax mapping and stuff, and they made it look almost photorealistic in game.
Okay.
Now, those assets, to make them, costs a bunch of money, so you can't really do them by yourself. However, there was a service that let you buy those assets, and it did cost you. You had to also pay a monthly subscription for it, and Epic bought that company. And two things happened. One, if you're not using the Unreal Engine, the subscription is still there. You still have to pay for it, but it only costs half now. And if you're using the Unreal Engine, then all their assets, like over 10,000 assets, are free. In the Unreal Engine, you can do with them whatever you want. And next year, they're going to release tools that will let you modify those assets in any way you want to actually make them unique. So not just the scanned assets. You can modify them, you can tweak them, you can combine them, you can mesh them together. You can make, with literally no money, a photorealistic game. It's gonna be a heaven for asset flipper games.
That's literally what I was gonna say.
But the thing is, you'd expect those to flood the Epic store because that's where they would make the most money. But Epic's not gonna let any of them on the store.
Oh, you're right.
They're gonna flood Steam instead. So Steam is gonna get a bunch, and I mean a bazillion incredibly looking games.
Bullshit. No,
Yeah, they're gonna be
they're
bullshit, but they're gonna look
bullshit.
amazing.
Yeah. So these were our preamble. It was like the tiny bits of news. Now we're gonna dive a bit deeper into some of the announcements made at X019. How does one read
The year Mega Man takes place in.
the year Mega Man takes place in?
So
And so it was the Xbox Microsoft main sort of thing conference where they announced a bunch of games.
and
Uh,
they thankfully announced that they weren't canceling some games they announced 2 years ago.
which is surprising coming from Microsoft. A couple of them I have zero interest in, so I'm not going to talk about those. The ones that I do have some inkling of interest is Age of Empires. Now, we talked about Age of Empires in one of our first or older episodes when we talked about RTSs, I'm pretty sure. And they revealed some gameplay footage of Age of Empires 4. Now,
Finally, after 2 years of not showing us anything and just hoping they didn't cancel it again, because this game was canceled once. It was canceled when they shut down Ensemble Studios. Ensemble wanted to take it to World War II and then make a fifth one in the future. It was sort of like a slower version of Empire Earth. Taking it through all the ages. And it's actually coming. It's still medieval. They haven't gone forward after Age of Empires 3. They haven't moved beyond the colonization of the USA, of the Americas. They moved backwards back into the medieval ages. They showed England. They showed the Mongols, and it looks nice. Like, I like the way the cities look. The cities look like cities.
yeah, they do. It does look interesting, but looking at it and looking at the troops and stuff just made me think this is gonna be it's gonna be another one of those combat focused game thingies, and I'm really not in the market for that anymore.
Well, it is made by Relic, and Relic does tend to make mostly combat-focused games. They took base building out of the Warhammer series there, the Dawn War series at one point. They sort of put it back in the third one, but they turned it into a MOBA at the same time, so it didn't really gel well. Hopefully, with this one, they can find a better balance of things, because they do have a pedigree to build upon. They have a base to build upon. So
yeah, there's like Dawn of War 2, great game, but that's a different. It's a squad based thing.
Yeah.
It's a very different sort of experience than what Age of Empires looks like it should be. But no, I'm just talking from my perspective. I'm just not in the demographic for that sort of gameplay experience anymore. Maybe at a certain point again, but no, right now I'm much more interested in just the city building / survival aspect of or base building of these games. If it has combat, I do my best to either avoid it. Hopefully the game offers you the chance to avoid it, like in the old Impressions games.
I
But
don't think
otherwise,
it would go.
no, not in
It's
Age of
still Age
Empires,
of
that's not going to
Empires.
happen. No, I'm just talking the types of games I play. Or hopefully it doesn't have any combat and it's survivally, like Cliff Empire and that sort of stuff banished. But they also did they show images of Age of Empires 2 and 3 remasters? Or
Well, 2 was released like 2 days ago on Steam. 3, they announced it again like 2 years ago. They announced all of these 2 years ago, and I think they may have showed some images from the third one, but I didn't really catch it because it was like late at night and I didn't stay up to see it all. But
Yeah,
the third one remaster probably won't take a lot of like resources because it was already 3D. They could just up the resolution on the models and stuff. They don't need to remake everything from scratch like I did with this one, with 2 and 1.
Yeah, there was a time in which I really got into. I would have really loved to have a nicer looking version of Age of Empires, but alas, I'm not there anymore.
Thing is, we already have the HD version, which has nicer looking water, and now we have the Super HD version, which has everything looking nicer.
Indeed. So I'm definitely, I'm definitely sure a lot of people will be looking forward to it. I'll probably just check out some gameplay video once or twice, and then I'll be like, okay, sure, fine.
I'm curious how satisfying they're gonna make resource gathering in Age of Empires 4, because that was a pleasant part of the game for me. Like sending your people out into the wilderness to find some elephants and lions and things to hunt and bring back, and the sheep, scouting with the sheep. That was fun.
All I want to see
Foraging
is the
bushes.
priests go wololo.
Oh yeah.
That's where I'm at. We'll see about it. Yeah, that was my favorite part of the game as well. Like literally just evolving. Again, that's how I knew I don't want to play the attacky part, because I just wanted to research shit. So that's why I prefer just the city builders.
Hopefully it'll have a mode for turtle fans. People just want to bunker in and let the world move around them.
Should be. Maybe just build stuff. Something that is considerably closer to my channel's topic is we got a finalish sort of trailer for Wasteland 3, which looks really nice, sounds really good. I have not played the second one yet, although I have the director's cut. I was a backer of Wasteland 2 and am a backer of Wasteland 3 as well. But I've never gotten around to playing 2. I did play 1 for the first time, I think, in 2016 when I actually made a video about it. And it made a very, even now, like so long after its release, it made quite an interesting impact on me. And
did you have the manual when playing it?
Yeah, well, the manual comes as a PDF.
Oh, so, yeah. In 2016 you would have the manual. I tried to play like in 2003 or 2004. I got it from school. We had the internet back then there, and without the manual, it was kind of hard to play. You couldn't really understand what you were supposed to do since there was no what you would call coherent text in the game.
Yes, there still isn't. I mean, there is in the version that's up on Steam, at least. You can read the text in the game, but I actually wanted to experience the original stuff, so I actually read it from a separate PDF. Just so, I mean, there's not that much of a difference, but it did make a difference. Like, you think it doesn't, but it is a bit different. But they're also remaking Wasteland 1.
Yeah, and they announced the cover of the game.
They announced remaking it a while back and showed some screenshots. And it's not actually gonna be. I don't think they're gonna. I mean, I don't think they used some parts of the engine they had for Wasteland 2, most likely, but the rest of the thing is Wasteland 1. You still have the list of your companions. You're still one character on the map. Everything is just like the original, but with proper graphics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not gonna be that sort of a remake. It's not gonna be basically like as if you would remake Fallout 1 and Fallout 4's engine. It's not that. But that one looks interesting. Fallout Wasteland 3 looks interesting, and it's gonna be released, I believe, in May of next year. I think that's the release month.
What I gotta say I appreciate about Wasteland 3 is that it's not another desert.
No. They went they really went different with it, which is, again, I think they wanted to do that, and they realized they should change shit around a bit. And hopefully, maybe I'll get to play through Wasteland 2 by May. I'm not sure, because
I'm gonna get bored with the combat, because even in the director's cut, it was still kind of It's the worst part of the game, and it's something you're gonna do a lot of. Now you're gonna fight giant badgers, and that's fun always. But
on the other hand,
badgers can't fix everything.
On the other hand, Unacam, I just watched your Outer Worlds video, and most of the things that you didn't like in the game, I have no problems with. So maybe I won't. Maybe the combat won't annoy me that much. But again, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get to it because I have really different plans for the channel next year anyway. But yeah, Wasteland 3 coming, and it's good to see again that after they were acquired by Microsoft, they still got to work on their project. I imagine this was part of the contract. I would hope.
Yeah.
Brian Fargo isn't an idiot.
Well, he did let his company get bought out by Titus at one point.
Well, yeah, but that's like all that hopefully he learned. Like that was a long time ago.
He did. Like when they fired him, they gave him a 1-year non-compete clause, so he couldn't work in video games for 1 year.
Yeah,
that was horrible. Speaking of
being acquired by Microsoft,
and both of those, Obsidian announced a new game, and it's not an RPG.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I think there's a ghost in here.
No. There was like I think a tire exploded somewhere outside my flat building. It was really big.
It sort of sounded a little bit like someone going in a microphone, like somewhere around us.
Yeah, no, that's all. That's what got to the microphone. It was a boom. Are we sure it's not an RPG? Because it could be partially an RPG. Yeah,
but it's not the kind of RPG that Obsidian really makes. It's more of the let's collect stuff and then stand around like Frozen while representations of different objects appear in the world and suddenly materialize in place.
Exactly. So Obsidian started working and announced a survival multiplayer co-op game, which I dubbed Obsidian's Honey, I Shrunk Fallout. Because so it's really inspired by Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which is a really good sci-fi comedy movie from the 80s, which, in case you've never heard of, go check it out. You will
also had a TV series.
It did, I know, because I watched it. But I'm just talking about the OG shit here. So you will not regret watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It's everything you would want it to be. And I have to say, whilst the whole survival in the wilderness first person thing or even third person thing doesn't really appeal to me that much, I do like the idea of being like I do like the setting that there are a bunch of kids who got shrunk down to the size of an ant, and they have to survive or something. I don't know. They have to reach a place or some shit like that. So that I liked quite a bit. That you'll have to fight with soldier ants, and there's gonna be like a day-night cycle, and at night all of the spiders and the weird, creepy, crawly shit comes out. Again,
so at the very least, it's original.
Yes, it also has
the
potential.
Setting and a presentation.
Yeah, it has potential to be a bit slightly fresh because of the setting. Otherwise, yes, you build shit like in Fallout 4. Yeah. I don't know who did that first. I think maybe Minecraft, but I don't think was that in Minecraft. Like the projection holographic projection of what you want to build.
That was in a bunch of other games before. Not before. I think some were maybe before Minecraft, but they were a thing in DayZ. They were a thing in a lot of these survival games from back then.
Okay.
They were just a thing. I remember them being in, I think, Arma 2 as well, which makes sense because Arma 2 is what DayZ was built on.
Okay. I don't know. I only had that in Fallout 4, but I was obviously sure it had been done before. But now it's in Fortnite, so there's some amount of expectations from the gaming public that some shit has to be done.
I just kind of wish that the representation of you just building stuff would sort of change a bit. You're just standing there, your characters just like they're like this, and things appear in front of them. Why not get them take out a small model of what they're trying to make and look at it, and
maybe that would be extra animations.
Yeah, that would be extra animations, and
I mean, it's really simple. It's really cheap just to have the the model just do nothing, and you can just flip shit and place it. So there's also financial reasonings on the one hand, and also player-based expectations. Because again, they're not making this game for us. Like it's not for us. They're making it for like the slightly
the Fortnite
younger
crowd.
Exactly. So they have to
those damn kids and their games.
Nah, it's fine. But
and their Fortnites.
And their Fortnites, yes. But I am interested. I do like the idea of the setting. I'm curious of the types of things that you can make, or of the types of resources, for instance, that you can gather. Because the things we saw, like they were cutting down blades of grass, and they had torches that looked like they were made out of matchsticks and that sort of stuff. So it's a lot of creative potential to make weird stuff. Like they could use like pieces of string, would be like really thick rope. There's a lot of stuff there. Also, they were I saw a couple of scenes where they had like armor made out of pieces of ants, and I'm thinking maybe
there's gonna be some gore in there with taking apart the ant.
Maybe that's gonna make the ants not attack them. Maybe, I don't know.
Or if they're from a different colony, they're gonna attack them more.
Exactly. Oh yeah, they mentioned that. Basically the world lives regardless of what the player does. So the ants, for instance, have AI. The ants will act like ants. There will be scouting ants that will look for resources. And then they're gonna leave like pheromone trails, and then the other ants can follow, and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of cool, because the idea is for the game to have a certain amount of unexpected things to happen. Like this isn't gonna be like a WoW type experience. Like, oh, we're gonna go there and the shit's gonna respawn. No, there will be. I think an
ecosystem.
They're gonna go for as realistic as possible simulation of day and nighttime behavior of various insects.
Hopefully, since you are scaled down and it's not a massive game, the players won't just steamroll everything like they did with Ultima Online. So that they had to take out that bit where it simulated the environment. Because the players scaled everything.
I don't think it's gonna be that sort of a thing, because it looked from the video, it looked like they're literally barely surviving. They're fighting for their lives and that sort of stuff. So Ultima Online RPG. This one I don't think is gonna be an RPG, but I think you might have classes. So maybe, or some sort of different sets of abilities. I'm not sure, but from what I saw, it seemed like some people were more adept at throwing, or they had bows or some shit like that.
I'm curious how deep it's going to go in the survival angle, because a lot of games start out as survival games, and by the end you have a jetpack, a tank, and can bench lift like 2,000 tons.
I don't know. I hope they don't go that way. I hope they thought through their system, and those things won't happen. It remains to be seen. Maybe this is the its own experience thing you said that Outer Worlds doesn't do for you. Maybe this is it. I don't know.
So before we go to the next thing, and because you mentioned dance, recently, like last week, another game was released on the Epic Store called Bee Simulator. It's a game that I was kind of like excited for a while ago. I didn't really keep up with its development, but my dad is a beekeeper, and by definition, I'm a junior beekeeper. I help him now and again, and I hate bees.
You help him beekeep?
Yeah, I help him beekeep. And bees, I kind of hate bees because they have made me work and suffer quite long and hard. But I thought it would be a very nice game to get them. But recently I saw the release trailer for the game, and it has you, in this game called Bee Simulator, it has you fly through rings. And I'm not sure
Oh
what your opinion
no!
of this mechanic is, but flying through rings to me is the most bankrupt idea you can put in a game where something is able to fly.
So no, ever since Superman 64. Well, better yet, ever since the AVGN's video about Superman 64, I don't think anyone should ever even consider adding that stuff. Now, that being said,
Anthem did it too.
in Arkham City, because I haven't played past Arkham City, in Arkham City you do have the circle things, but they're generally at the beginning when when it's teaching you how to use the dive, and later on only if you want in the super duper special challenges, in the sense that it tells you reach this point, reach that point, that sort of stuff. So it's not it's acceptable, but no, rings, come on, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
instead of actually landing on the flowers and gathering pollen and nectar like a bee does, you fly through a ring above the flower.
because that's how
Yay.
pollinating works.
I gotta say, I've never been more disappointed about an insect-related video game.
I don't think that's something one generally says. How many insect-based video games have there been?
Well, there's ants and the bugs alive, and
Was there? Those are also games? I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I know those
Yeah.
are movies. I don't know if there's also games.
they've had games as well.
Okay.
There was one with there was Cement, of course, the classic. There was Micro Voice or something where you're supposed. I think that actually that one got cancelled. There were a couple of them.
You know what? Starship Troopers.
There was Ant Simulator as well, and that I think that had a big scandal about kickstarting and cancellation and stuff.
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, that's got bugs in it too.
Yep.
So anyway, moving on with something that's not bee related.
Enough bugs. Although I have to say, bees are dying horribly, and we will follow them if we don't.
Oh, trust me, we have so many self-pollinating crops that it's pointless to have bees. Like, we're going bankrupt as beekeepers because of that. We just can't find crops for them at all.
Kind of, but we're not talking about the crops. We're talking about the rest of the fucking biosphere.
Oh, the wind takes care of most of that.
I don't know about that one, but I do like honey, so yes. So now in somewhat Diablo-esque related news, maybe.
Yeah, let's talk about people punching out Blizzard and taking its lunch money.
Well,
Riot has done it. Riot has done it by announcing a bunch of games and saying, Blizzard, we're coming for you.
That is true.
And now grinding your games.
So when we talked last time in the Gun Political episode, you mentioned basically that Diablo 4 kind of looks like what one would expect Path of Exile 2 to look. And lo and behold, ta-da! Path of Exile 2 is announced to be a thing that will exist, possibly next year. But did they say when?
Beta late next year. It's probably, and since for them beta is kind of the game released, and they're just going to add to it, and it's going to be playable constantly, it's probably going to come out before Diablo 4.
Of course it will, because they've probably been doing this shit for a while. So the interesting thing is, I have only played Path of Exile once. With you guys on stream a long time ago, and it was interesting and I liked how it looked, but I wasn't in the RPG mood back then. But now, since they're gonna release Path of Exile 2 and they're gonna change a bunch of shit, it might just be a great joining moment, what they call it, like a good jump on moment for people like me. I've been watching from there, but Path of Exile 1, I guess, one now, seems so, it's daunting. It's like for someone who looks at D&D and tries to jump into D&D, and there's like, and they see the books and they see the stats and they see the bunch of shit, the numbers. If you don't have like a beginner's version of it, it's hard to get into D&D without a beginner's version. So I might just jump on at least for a while on Path of Exile 2 because they said it's gonna have a new skill system, which is great. For me, it's gonna be
It's going to be slightly modified.
yeah. As long as it's slightly modified, it's a new thing. So they said that gems will work differently.
Yeah,
Apparently,
they're
that's
gonna have
important.
some new types of gems that can just cast all the gems they're socketed to. So instead of having like you can have auras in your game like the paladin used to have, and you have to activate those manually, and you can have multiples of them stacked together. But to do that, you have to cast them all individually. You have to have them all equipped. You have to select them if you don't have them on dedicated buttons and cast them all. Now you can have just one skill gem that collects those and casts them all at the same time. So you can take care of your buffs, you can take care of your summons with just one click. And it's not going to be as efficient. They're going to have a power drop off if you do that, but you're going to have them. So it's a neat thing. There's a lot of quality of life improvements. If you a lot of ease ushered in by Path of Exile 2. For example, it used to be really like impossibly hard unless you were a dedicated player to get an item with 6 sockets. Now every item has the possibility of having 6 sockets, not just some armors, not just some staves, not just some swords. All of them can have that. So you can have a much more variety in your skill build, much more freedom. And considering how much freedom the game already gave you, it's going to be insane. Oh, and regarding the bit where it's going to be easier for a new player, it's going to be shipped with everything that Path of Exile 1 has. All the leagues, all the side events, all the things, plus more. So it's going to be insane.
So they also said they're gonna redo the armor and weapon progression. The passive skill trees will get some changes, and they're
those get changed every week on some.
So I don't know. It sounds like it would make it a much easier jump on point for me, for instance.
Probably. You don't have to care about the campaign because you're gonna have a new campaign set 20 years after the events of the first one. You don't really have to know what happened. I finished twice. I killed Kitava twice. Don't really care about Kitava and Innocence and Sin, and I just the game has never made me care about its story at all.
Yeah.
Never. It hasn't. Diablo 3 has made more has had more success with that, and I don't even like Diablo 3. But it's still in the story department.
You don't like Diablo 3 just because stats matter on weapons and weapons don't matter. That's your problem. That's your brain gremlin.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this sounds great. And just like you said, this is gonna everyone, or at least most of the people who are into the boycott Blizzard and fuck 'em train, who hasn't wussed out just because too shiny. This is going to be a more than a valid alternative, seeing as how Path of Exile took over the space that should have been for Diablo 3 or between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3.
Also, one very important change is, apart from the game not costing you anything, if you ever bought any microtransactions in Path of Exile, they'll be transferred to Path of Exile 2. You won't have to buy them again. They'll just be there. There is no upgrade cost. There's nothing there. It's not like with Overwatch 2 where you probably have to buy the whole game again. You have it. It's just there.
Yeah, so much like when looking for open source or free or more affordable alternatives to things like the Adobe Suite. This is also a very, very competitive alternative to whatever the fuck Diablo 4 is gonna offer for none of the price.
It's also gonna have shape-shifting. Can be a werewolf now.
That's always cool. Werewolves are always cool.
Also, about Path of Exile, they also announced something, but I can't really put my fingers on it. I wonder what it was. Could you tell us what it was?
Yeah, I think they also announced Path of Exile Mobile.
You don't say.
With a very tongue-in-cheek sort of video.
I kind of want to call it a knee to groin video.
Constantly poking fun at Blizzard.
It wasn't as much poking fun as it was throwing shade, like buckets of shade upon Blizzard.
Also a bit of trolling in there, because like at one point in the video, one of the dudes is described as mobile fall guy.
Yeah,
which is fucking wonderful. But they also mention all sorts of jabby things at
we didn't
Blizzard
farm this out to some developer in China. We're making it ourselves, and it doesn't have any service coming microtransactions in it. It's just made with no compromise. It's Path of Exile on mobile.
Yes, and hey man, so this is technically how how an actual free market and how theoretically capitalism is supposed to work. It's like the competition.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fuck up royally and several times and continuously, at a certain point, again, apparently it's not valid for YouTube because they're owned by Google now, but hopefully but in like the smaller areas, the less $billion areas, it can happen. And yeah, like I'm interested in Path of Exile too. I'm not interested in mobile shit. I don't play mobile games. Again, that's just me. But I will definitely look at Path of Exile 2, and maybe if we're still on YouTube by that time, we can actually do some. Maybe we can start and do some live streams, and
because that would be nice.
Whenever we played Diablo 2, it always turned into some butt fuckery of all of immense dimensions. So that's always cool.
One thing to note about the mobile version of Path of Exile is that they acknowledge that people on mobile don't play for as long a time, because you're going to play it when you're on a toilet, when you're in a commute, when you're not going to have access to a PC, especially if it's a game made for like PC players or console players. So it's geared towards more of the Atlas style end-game challenges, because in-game, when you finish the campaign, you have maps that you find of different qualities. You can upgrade them, you can combine them, and it unlocks a random dungeon with very specific challenges that gives you specific rewards. And finishing that dungeon doesn't take you like a whole lot of time, but well, unless you die repeatedly like I keep doing, because my endgame character is a glass cannon that sort of has run out of cannonballs recently with all the changes that they made to the game. I'm not sure, my build isn't valid, so it has issues, but the Atlas itself, that is super duper geared towards short play stations, and it will work on mobile. Also, the fact that they announced the game alongside Path of Exile 2 proves that at least somebody understands that you can't announce just the mobile version of a hardcore PC game
to a
on stage.
Hardcore PC game playing audience.
Yeah. They announced it at ExileCon, which is their version of BlizzCon.
So. Oh, okay, makes sense.
Did
they say in the video that we have phones? I think they mentioned something.
No, they didn't. Paradox said that on Twitter when they announced their Stellaris mobile game.
I know that. Well, fuck up. That was no. I think okay, yeah. So I was just conflating the two memories. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so in case you haven't heard of any of the things that we've been talking about up until now, go check that shit out. Although we doubt it, but go check it out. It's really cool. Like most of them, pretty cool.
Now we're getting to the point in our discussion when we will swear quite a bit.
Yeah, because that's according to my theory, that's what's gonna save us. So up until this point, we've been talking exclusively about the gaming stuff, and I think if you want to, I think you can just cut the episode here and have a second one, just so it's not that long, because it was almost it has been close to an hour.
Yeah, 50 minutes. I guess we can do that.
It could happen, and we're gonna continue to talk about something that is highly likely to affect us in the near future, in the very near future, namely YouTube and all the legal stuff that's been happening in the US, which affects the entire platform, because obviously it does. So in case you generally follow us or Unicom mainly for the gaming stuff, we appreciate it very much. Thank you for watching. But this one's gonna be us just talking some shit out, because this is relevant, because it might mean whether or not we actually have channels going forward.